Hello everyone. In this podcast, I want to cover a technique for weighting the character's torso. So as you can see, as I move my animation, the character's the torso has a lot of faceting onto it. There's a lot of big gaps and everything on here. We need to weight this. Now I could weight this in the normal smooth weighting, technique. The problem is with that is that where the other characters are pretty much tubes, when we had our legs, he was literally just waiting between pretty much these two influences. It wasn't until you got to the hip that you were dealing with multiple influences. But the torso is a little different, is that you have weights that are being distributed between multiple different joints in here and not just like two areas. So if I just painted weights in smooth, like my arm or my leg, you would get these bulges instead of actually this nice smooth weighting down the whole character. So the technique we have here, we're going to actually use a smooth weighting tool to actually apply this. But before I apply my smooth weighting tool, is that smooth weighting is like smoothing, it's averaging between areas. Now this might be a little of paranoia on my end, but I like to make sure that I'm actually, I want to make sure there's some type of influences between my other areas on here. So I'm going to paint a little bit of weight. I'm going to go into add. I'm going to put a medium brush and I'm going to put only 10% on here. And I'm just going to paint up. I don't want to paint anything completely white. I just want to add some weighting on here. Like this. And I'm going to go up the back and just start, literally adding a little weight so it knows where this weighting should go. Of course, if I'm weighting in an area around here, I think I'll make sure I got enough up there. Yeah, I did. When you're doing this, you're not trying to get a perfect blend. You're just literally trying to apply some weight so it knows, oh, okay, I can go there and we won't have any major issues on here. So I'm just kind of going up like that, just putting a little bit more weight. And again, if you want to try this without it, you're more than welcome, but make sure you save a lot, because undoing and painting weights does cause all types of issues with crashing and not undoing. Okay, so I'm going up. Also, another point in doing this is that I'm painting an area on the chest at this point that I might have done the shoulders on, so you might have to retouch those areas. If those areas already have weighting on them, do not touch this. My character in this version, I did not touch the shoulders yet. Okay. Okay. Good. So that should be enough. Okay. So that's actually probably one of the hardest parts to do on this, which is not very hard at all. So if you see my bend, he's still got these really awful facets on his arm, on his body. So if I go in now and I go into my my paint selection tool and I go into vertice mode, let's make sure I'm not in paint selection. There it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint down his body like this. Now in the example I did for showing the smooth weighting tool, I actually did bands going across. And that has a tendency to cause more tubes. When you actually go stretching up along the body, you get a nice distributed weighting between it. So I'm just going to go into skin. Now we have two smoothing tools. We got smooth and hammer tools, and they're very similar processes. The only difference, they have different algorithms on how they average everything out. So I'm going to go smooth tool, and by default, this obey max influence is turned off. So I'm going to turn that off. That has been known in the past, Maya, to cause bugs when it hits a max influence. Now, typically, if you did it like the first podcast on applying a bind, you probably turn that off, but I'm just being overly cautious. So I'm just hit apply, and you see how it kind of smooths out. And what my process here is, now I unselected, and I select my geometry, and I'm going to kind of go around the character's body in like pinstripes, and just hit apply, and then unclick, and just keep on going around and doing this. And then eventually I'll put the character in another pose. Like this. Now you're probably thinking that this is getting a little like tedious to constantly select and unselect. So I have a method for solving this problem. Down here in the mail area, actually I'm going to open up my little script editor here. It'll probably bring up a whole bunch of code. Okay, I have a bunch of tabs open, but it'll be the same thing. So up here is our history area in our script editor. And if you notice that when I select a vertice like that, we get this code in here that says select-r rabbit_govtx. And that's what this means, that this is 789. That's the vertex number of this one. If I go through and I can select, if I select multiples, you'll see like a range. But more importantly, if I click away, you see it says is select-cl. So I can actually grab this and throw this up in our bar up here and ask me, hey, and I grabbed it with my left mouse button. Did I want this as mel with Python? Everything in the history area is mel. So I'm going to say mel like that. I'm going to close it. And now watch when I go into my paint selection, I can do this. I can hit apply, and then I could just click the button to unselect and I can paint again. So if I get a little area there, apply. Now I normally make this as a menu too. So I go to skin, smooth skin weights, and I hit Control Shift, and it did not make money. Let's try that again. Mine is not making it. I have a Windows keyboard, so it's a different. Well, I'll refrain from that. I'm going to make a button. I think I have it on my other one. There it is. Okay, so I have, this is what the button it pops up as. So I can clear and do it. So I can do something like that. Just hit apply. Apply. Now, it's also important to note that you can't unweight bad topology on here. And what I mean by that, if I put him back into T-pose, he's got this little crink in his body. You can't fix that. It's there. So if I went the other direction now, I would just go around and I would do the same thing. Go into my... Now, this is not a perfect tool. This is not meant to replace everything inside of, in a Maya that you're doing. You're supposed to go and use a little bit of everything. But this gets a nice, when you go back and forth and do this enough, I go side to side like that. I got to get the hip area, but you'll notice that it's like, it's already starting to do the, make the back flex really well. So just make sure you go through all of it. Like obviously this area is kind of a mess right now because I haven't touched that area yet. So I'll just go through and start doing the same thing with that. Again, if you touch something on here that you're already weighted, it will change it. So you do want to be careful about that. In this example, like I said, I didn't have a bunch of areas in the arms weighted yet. Okay. That's the area over there still needs to be weighted, but it's looking better. And that's pretty much one of the techniques I like for weighting. An area needs to be distributed between multiple areas. You pose it, you select the vertices, and you smooth. And you select the vertices how you want them to spread out over. So that's pretty much using the smooth weight tool and a little, process of, rigging, weighting the torso.